Oh boy, so you know how in yesterday's Luke Schenn New York Rangers video I said that there were actually two defensemen in the NHL that I wanted to have a conversation about when it came to the New York Rangers. Obviously, one was Luke Schenn because we made the entire video about him, but I did say that if we had the time in that video, which we did not, I wanted to also talk about Jakob Chychrun as well. Arizona Coyotes guy, top goal scorer amongst all defensemen last season, having a down year this year, and he is on the trade block despite the fact that he's making a pretty good amount of money for the next few seasons, and he's still kind of young, sort of in his prime, just playing on a bad team, so there really is a lot more to unlock with this kind of player, I would think, heading into the next few seasons. But I wanted to make a video about Chychrun and the Rangers, and that was yesterday. That was in the afternoon when I was thinking to myself, okay, Luke Schenn, Rangers, we ended up making that entire video about Luke Schenn and his story, so there wasn't any time to fill with the Jakob Chychrun conversation. But leave it to Jeff Marek to go out there and validate my decision to talk about Luke Schenn for 9 minutes in yesterday's video, not allowing us to talk about Jakob Chychrun, because after that video went up, a few hours after the video went up, Jeff Marek had this to say on TV that he actually summarized in a Twitter thread later in the night, going over that New York Rangers team as well as the Arizona Coyotes' biggest trade chip. As I just reported on the 32 Thoughts segment on Hockey Night in Canada, the Arizona Coyotes have at least one offer that meets their criteria in a Chychrun deal: 2 former first-round picks and a first-round pick in an upcoming draft. Plenty of teams are interested in Chychrun, including the Rangers, who have discussed Vitali Kravtsov, but they're not sure that moves the needle for the Coyotes. I think the Panthers are the team to watch so far. And so, this right here is kind of strange, because we saw a few people kind of misconstruing the tweet and misunderstanding what Marek said on TV. Let's lay it out right here. Marek is saying that the Arizona Coyotes' price of 2 former first-round picks and 1 first-round selection has been met by at least one team. That team, we have no idea which team that is. However, in a separate conversation, the New York Rangers have indeed gone out there and discussed Vitali Kravtsov in a Chychrun move, but they're not sure that moves the needle. Now, does this mean that New York is the team that Marek has highlighted already has a trade offer on the table that the Arizona Coyotes would accept? No, that doesn't mean anything. They're two separate ideas. Whether or not that team that does have that 2 first-round player package plus the extra first is New York or not, we have no idea. We just know that there is at least one team that has gone out there, and from the way that Marek is talking about it, it appears that team is the highest bidder at the moment. Now, on to the New York Rangers, because this is kind of the entire conversation I wanted to have yesterday, but just didn't have the time to, because I kind of went overboard discussing the entire story of Luke Schenn. Jakob Chychrun and the Rangers would be a very interesting combination. The Rangers are an interesting team. They're getting offense, yes. They're getting goals from guys like Chris Kreider. Yesterday, the duel with Alex Ovechkin was crazy. Seeing Kreider take over the lead in goals, and then Alex Ovechkin scored to tie it up, and then Kreider scored again to take over the lead once more, and then Ovechkin tied it again, and then Draisaitl later in the night was like, okay, I hear you guys are scoring goals. Let me score 2 right here to get my name back in that conversation as well. It was a crazy, crazy night yesterday for the NHL and the top point producers in the NHL. And Kreider is one of those guys, not to mention the fact that, of course, you still have everybody else in New York that is scoring and doing their thing, but when it comes to advanced analytics, when it comes to defensive metrics, the New York Rangers are a really interesting team, and there are some things on JFresh's Twitter account that kind of depict how that is so. Take a look at this. This is the goals saved above expected leaders for all goaltenders from January 22nd, so yesterday. Igor Shesterkin has saved so many expected goals that he is the number 1 goaltender in this metric compared to every other goaltender. Now, what this means is that if you replaced Igor Shesterkin with a regular, average 50% goaltender in the NHL, that goaltender probably would have let in 26 more goals than Igor Shesterkin has had. Goals saved above expected is very indicative of how good a goaltender is at making just very high-quality top-tier saves, and Shesterkin is number 1 in the league in that category. To put his impact in perspective, based on historical standings data, if he was playing like an average starter this season, the Rangers would have a negative 51.5 points percentage, the same as the Islanders. And so, because the Islanders are the worst team in that division, they're one of the worst teams in the NHL, it is kind of telling to see that the Rangers and their defense and the amount of goals that are supposed to be scored on this team that are just being held out by the goaltender because he happens to be just the best goaltender in the league when it comes to making saves that he probably shouldn't. It kind of tells a bigger story as to the defensive quality of the Rangers right now. And when you take a look at 5v5 team defense rankings from yesterday as well, the Rangers are technically in the bottom half of the league with 2.6 expected goals against per 60 minutes, which is 20th overall in the NHL. Oddly enough, Seattle is actually one of the best teams when it comes to defensive capabilities. It's just their team's goaltending has been so bad, it's kind of negated all the good defensive things their team is doing. And so when I think about the New York Rangers and I think about Jakob Chychrun, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's a good defenseman. That's a very, very good defenseman right there. That's a defenseman that, in my opinion, if you give this guy a stage, you give this guy a role, you give this guy a position on a team like New York, and you allow him to prosper in that system, he could be the second best D-man on that blue line. Obviously, Adam Fox is tough to beat, but Jakob Chychrun, as we noted, was the top goal guy amongst all D-men last year. Just having that kind of an output on a pairing with Adam Fox sounds like an absolute dream. And all we know so far from Marek is that the trade package that New York has sent over has started out with Vitali Kravtsov. Now, Kravtsov, as we all kind of know, he's been all over the place. He is back in Russia, and he likely won't ever play a game for the Rangers ever again because that bridge appears to have been burned for quite a while now, and they've been trying to trade him for months. Now, whether or not an Arizona Coyotes team would see enough value in a Vitali Kravtsov-like asset to say, okay, Kravtsov and some other stuff right here, maybe a few other picks or maybe another prospect or two, good enough for Chychrun, here you go, that's up in the air. Especially since Jeff Marek lays it out on the line at some other team, or maybe it is the Rangers, I don't really know. There is indeed a team that has a 2 first-round player plus first-round pick package already up in the air. It kind of gets interesting because if you assume that team is the New York Rangers, you have to go out there and try to fill in the blanks. Okay, Vitali Kravtsov is one of the players that is a first-round talent. They're going to have on another first-round pick as well as another first-round player. If you assume the Rangers are not that team that has that offer on the table, then you still have to go out there and try to make that same argument. Okay, who would balance out the scales? Because if the Rangers want to compete in this trade market for Jakob Chychrun, they're going to have a package that's like that in the first place, because some other team already has it. So, either way, we're talking about the same thing. Vitali Kravtsov plus another young player plus a first. What is the package here? Do you give up right away on Brennan Othmann, whom you just acquired in the 2021 NHL Entry Draft? He's been doing really well with the OHL's Flint Firebirds, and I know a lot of Rangers fans really do like this guy, but he's one of the only guys that kind of fulfills this requirement, aside from Vitali Kravtsov and one Nils Lundqvist, who is also there. Aside from Nils Lundqvist and Brennan Othmann, I mean, there's Alexis Lafreniere, you're not going to trade away that guy. Braden Schneider, you're not going to trade away him too. I know the Rangers fans love this guy to death. Kaapo Kakko, you're not going to trade away Kakko. You're probably not trading away K'Andre Miller. You're probably not trading away Philip Cheadle. You're probably not trading away any of these guys. And those are the only first-round picks that the Rangers have in their system that they've kept in their system, because everybody else is gone. Like, Elias Anderson, he's already gone. Brady Shea's technically a first-round pick, but come on, Brady Shea is not a first-round caliber guy. So, you're kind of forced into a box where you only have 3 first-round caliber assets that I think could actually make sense in this conversation if you don't want to include guys like Philip Cheadle and Alexis Lafreniere and Kaapo Kakko. It is Brennan Othmann, Vitali Kravtsov, and Nils Lundqvist. So, mix and match, you know? Mix and match between these 3 assets and add on a first-round pick on top of that. Is that a package that's good enough for you, if you're a Rangers fan, to acquire a guy like Jakob Chychrun? If you're an Arizona Coyotes fan, I know you do exist, by the way, Arizona fans, please flock to this video, talk to me in the comments. What do you think about our proposed conversation here? If it's Kravtsov plus a Lundqvist plus a first, is that a package that's good enough for you for Chychrun? Because honestly, if I was a Coyotes fan knowing how good Chychrun could be, personally, I feel like there's probably a better ask that other teams could provide, especially considering the drama that has surrounded Kravtsov this entire time. To me, if you're trading away a Chychrun, you're trying to get the best value you can, and based off of everything that's gone down with Kravtsov, I don't really know if that value persists with an asset like him. So that's kind of my opinion about it, but you can let me know in the comments all your thoughts. Rangers fans and Coyotes fans, what are your thoughts on the Vitali Kravtsov New York Rangers trade package for Chychrun? I hope you enjoyed this. And bye.